through the hands of the Blessed Virgin. Now in this terrible hour we wish more than ever that the prayers of Mary's afflicted children be directed with lively confidence to the august Mother of God. We therefore charge you to make known to the bishops of the entire world our ardent desire that recourse be had to the heart of Jesus, throne of all graces, and that recourse be had to this throne through Mary. It was only 8 days after Pope Benedict XV wrote this letter and made it public that Our Lady appeared to these 3 children, Jacinta, 7 years old, Francisco, 9 years old, and their cousin, Lucia, who was 10 years old. They had prayed their rosary at noon as they were taught to do, and then they were frightened by a bright flash of light, which they thought must be a lightning, indicating a storm coming, even though the sky was perfectly clear. So they began to gather up their sheep from the Cova de area and to lead them down the hill. Halfway down the hill they saw another flash, and so they began to hasten the rest of the way down the hill, and at the bottom they had the first apparition of our Blessed Mother. The lady who appeared to them said to them, "Fear not, I shall do you no harm." And Lucia asked her, "Where do you come from?" And she replied, "I come from heaven." Lucia then asked her why she had come here. And the lady answered, "I have come to ask you to come here for 6 months in succession on the 13th of each month. At this same hour, in the month of October, I shall tell you who I am and what I want." Lucia then asked if she would go to heaven and if Jacinta and Francisco would go to heaven. And Our Lady said yes, Lucia and Jacinta would go to heaven. And she said yes, also Francisco would go to heaven, but he must pray many rosaries. Francisco, of course, when he heard that, was when he didn't hear the apparition, but when he was told that by Lucia, rejoiced and promised he would say many rosaries. And in fact, through his life, he often said as many as 8 or 9 rosaries in a day. In Purgatory, Father Faber says, "If we look into the revelations of Sister Francesca of Pampeluna, we shall find among some hundreds of cases of souls who had died and who had been saved, that by far the greater majority suffered 30, 40, or 60 years in purgatory. Here are some of the examples. A holy bishop, for some negligence in his high office, had been in purgatory 59 years. Another bishop, so generous of his revenues that he was named the almsgiver, had been there 5 years because he had wished for the dignity. Another bishop had been 40. A priest, 40 years because through his negligence some sick persons had died without the sacraments. Another 45 years for inconsiderateness in his ministerial functions. A gentleman was in purgatory 59 years for worldliness. Another 64 years for fondness for playing at cards for money. Another 35 years for worldliness. We are apt to leave off too soon, imagining with a foolish and unenlightened fondness that our friends are freed from purgatory much sooner than they really are. If Sister Francesca beheld the souls of many fervent Carmelites, some of whom had wrought miracles in their lifetime, still in purgatory 10, 20, 30, 60 years after their death, and still not near their deliverance, as many told her, what must become of us and ours? You see, indeed the pains of purgatory are severe, and it reminds us that venial sin, although it is venial, is not a small matter. It does indeed offend God, and as such it is a great matter. Father Faber continues to say, what we in the world call very trivial faults are most severely visited in purgatory. St. Peter Damian gives us many instances of this and others are collected and quoted by St. Robert Bellarmine. Slight feelings of self-complacency, trifling inattentions in the recital of the divine office, and the like occur frequently among them. Sister Francesca mentions the case of a girl of 14 in purgatory because she was not quite conformed to the will of God in dying so young. And one soul said to her, "Ah, men think little in the world how dearly they are going to pay here for faults they hardly note in the world."